Hello, everybody. I am Linkzilla, and welcome to what I'm hoping is the final part of my little Jurassic World Dominion rant that I've been on. I've prefaced this entire thing by saying that it's all about the hurdles that Jurassic World Dominion is facing, and I've been alluding to one major problem that has been on the horizon ever since I started hearing about what Jurassic World Dominion was going to feature, and I've been trying to build up to it. I've been trying to set the stage, so I really hope that you've watched the last few entries so I can kind of get you in the right mindset, because, well, when we last left off, we were talking about the Indominus Rex, where it came from, and more importantly, why it's in the movie. For the one thing, it's meant to make a commentary on the mistakes that were made with Jurassic Park 3, and basically reassuring the audience that we're correcting that mistake. However, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom had to continue the story that was established with the Indominus Rex. It was designed to be the alpha build of a weapon, and that weapon was the Indoraptor, which was revealed in Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The Indoraptor program was effectively meant to be the weaponized hybrid dinosaurs that could be controlled and sold for military application. And I appreciate that. I like that story got to be told, because like I showcased in the 14-year-long Journey Jurassic World video, I'm much more satisfied with the hybrid dinosaurs that we got in World and Fallen Kingdom than any of the concept art that we almost got. Do you guys not realize we almost got human dinosaur hybrids for Jurassic Park 4? Human dinosaur and dog hybrids. Literally speaking, we dodged a major 14-year-long bullet. You should literally be grateful for what we got in Jurassic World, because if you think that this plot is ridiculous, my sweet summer child, you merely adopted the dark. I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the light until I was already a man, but it was nothing to me but blinding. So, the Indoraptor, like I said about the Indominus, it's a fascinating creature because you get a sense that it has a character. It has a personality. The Indominus Rex was a curious animal. It was a creature that was wanting to learn where it fit in the hierarchy of the world, and it ultimately didn't understand, because it doesn't really have a concept of life outside of its own. It effectively has so many predatory instincts going off in its head, it only ever concerns itself with, what is this thing, and am I capable of killing it? It's a psychopath that doesn't understand the difference between right and wrong. The Indoraptor, on the other hand, is a sociopath. A creature that fully understands where it fits in the hierarchy because of its higher intelligence. It knows that human beings are easy prey. It knows what it happens when it inflicts pain on another living individual. It knows all of these things. It knows the difference between right and wrong, but it doesn't care about it. Literally speaking, this dinosaur is a serial killer. You can see it in its eyes. It does what it does because it enjoys it. And that's what makes it so terrifying and yet so fascinating. And that's why I really wish that people gave that movie a second chance, because the Indoraptor was terrifying. However, I'm not here to talk about the Indoraptor. What I'm here to talk about is the public press releases surrounding the Jurassic World movies, because they literally said in the public releases that the hybrid dinosaur storyline was going to conclude with Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, meaning that the Indoraptor was going to be the final hybrid that would be showcased in the movies. Although not the final hybrid showcased in the franchise, because I haven't seen it yet, but apparently Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous has introduced a new hybrid dinosaur, something Scorpius Rex, something like it. I don't know. I think that basically, like, I'll have to watch the series in order to get, like, how I feel about that. But, well, it's on my to-do list. So, anyway. So the point is that, well, they're no longer doing hybrid dinosaurs, so what comes next? I now have to talk about the reason of why the Indominus Rex is in Jurassic World from a marketing standpoint, because even though the Indominus Rex was a literal apology for what they did with the Spinosaurus, it really was more of a sense of, we apologize for letting the Spinosaurus kill the T-Rex and try to usurp its place, but we still are ultimately going along with what the Spinosaurus represented. Because, well, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but the point is that they believe with every single movie, they can't just showcase the same big dinosaurs all over again. They have to show us something new and exciting. They have to show us something different in order to keep the audience interested. I mean, it's like with the Tremors sequels. The first movie was a great one that started out with introducing the graboids, and the graboids were really scary and really intimidating, but if you basically just had the movies only be about the graboids in the sequels, that would have gotten boring really fast. So you had to basically, like, showcase that the graboids were capable of doing something different, like mutating into the Shriekers, and then eventually the Ass Blasters. I mean, with Tremors 4, The Legend Begins, we're back to graboids, but we see a new life stage of the graboids that was interesting, and the setting itself is such a unique idea that fighting the graboids becomes far more difficult than it's enough to keep the audience's attention. And I think that's ultimately why the new trilogy of Tremors movies, from Tremors Bloodlines to Shrieker Island, ultimately fails, because it's not really showing anything new. It's showing us the same with a new design, a glossy coat of paint. And so therein lies the problem. The makers of the Jurassic World movie, as in the studio that's overseeing the creation of these movies, they want a new and bigger dinosaur with every single movie so that they can market toys. That's something that you're just going to have to accept is a facet of how these movies get made. The people who are actually making the movies have the integrity, but you got to pay the bills somehow. You got to basically line the pockets of the studios in order to make these endeavors worth it. So, the Indominus Rex, the Indoraptor, they were attempts at showcasing something new in order to basically, like, get the audience's attention, and of course have something new and marketable to basically showcase for the franchise. Because it's debatable on all the other dinosaurs, even though they hadn't appeared in movies yet, like the Carnotaurus, the Allosaurus, etc. The Jurassic Park franchise had already made toys based on those dinosaurs a long time ago, so they had to have something genuinely new. So, here is the biggest hurdle that Jurassic World Dominion faces, because once again, we're now basically entering into a new Jurassic Park movie where there's going to be a new, bigger, and badder dinosaur that's supposedly going to be even greater than the T-Rex, and the T-Rex is going to have to fight it. So, and that basically is the introduction of the Giganotosaurus, or the Giganotosaurus. I honestly... Gerudo, it's not a hill worth dying on, in my opinion. So, the Giganotosaurus, it is an actual dinosaur, and I've known about it since, I think, my 10th birthday, even sometime after Jurassic Park 3. I remember getting a book about dinosaurs of South America, where the Giganotosaurus was discovered, and it was basically being sensationalized as being larger and more powerful than Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I'm thinking, I wonder if Jurassic Park will come back with a movie and make a movie about this animal. I didn't think it would happen because they had literally just done the same thing with the Spinosaurus. So anyway, it jumped on the popular trend that it seemed like all over the world paleontologists were looking for things to usurp T-Rex's place in the hierarchy, when, let's face it, that's never going to happen. It doesn't matter if T-Rex isn't bigger or larger than any of these new dinosaurs. It's going to remain where it is because it had the better marketing team. And it has such a staying power that you literally can't get rid of it at this point. Anyways, the point of, well, the point is that the Giganotosaurus is being brought in to be the bigger and more powerful dinosaur that the T-Rex is going to fight in order to make the movie a whole lot more exciting. And a lot of people are postulating as to whether or not the T-Rex can actually beat this thing or if it's going to die. Because the prologue for this movie that's been released, I'm hoping that it's just a short that basically has been released prior to the beginning of the movie and is not actually part of the movie itself, features a flashback to the Cretaceous period where we see Rexy, the dinosaur that she was cloned from, the original T-Rex back in 65 million years ago, fighting with the Giganotosaurus. And I'm just left confused because not only does Giganotosaurus basically originate from South America, meaning that this one specimen of the species had to travel hundreds of thousands of miles to basically reach the North American continent where Rexy would have to be for her DNA to be recovered, but it would also have to survive 30 million years after its species went extinct. Yeah, the Tyrannosaurus Rex literally hadn't evolved by the time Giganotosaurus had gone extinct. Now, don't get me wrong, Giganotosaurus is a larger animal than T-Rex, but that doesn't mean it's a more effective predator. Giganotosaurus has longer jaws that are basically with really sharp serrated teeth that are basically meant to act sort of like a knife. Effectively, they're meant to cut through the prey rather than holding on to it. They're basically meant to just take big chunks of flesh meant to cripple the prey in order to slow it down, to weaken it so that the Giganota can basically pick it off after it's been wounded, because the kind of prey that the Giga was basically facing in South America were sauropods, like some of the largest and most powerful dinosaurs on the planet that basically could swing their tails with such force that they could break a predator's neck. So you basically had to have a long enough reach in order to get in there, take a bite, step back, and avoid the attack, and let your opponent bleed to death. Now that's effective for how you're going to kill something as big as like that, but it's a specialty killer. It's the difference between a serial killer and a mass murderer. A serial killer has a refined style of how they're going to kill something, and they usually leave a signature behind to kind of like indicate that they had done this, whereas a mass murderer all he cares about is killing as many things as possible, and that's what the T-Rex is. The Giga is a specialty killer, the T-Rex is a general killer. Effectively speaking, with literally the strongest bite force of any terrestrial animal that ever lived, a Tyrannosaurus Rex gets its jaws around you once, and any bone in any vital area, it crushes it. That bite is a one and done deal. If it basically bites you on the back and crushes your vertebrae, you're crippled. If it bites you on the leg and crushes your femur, you're hobbled. And worst of all, it's been theorized that tyrannosaurs, or dinosaurs in general, had such bad bacteria in their mouths, kind of like Komodo dragons, that even if you manage to get away from the animal, the bite will become septic, it'll get infected, and you're going to die anyway. So, The T-Rex, it basically is a crusher. It can kill with a single bite a whole lot more efficiently than a Giga can, which is why in the prologue, when the two of them fight, we distinctly see that Rexy doesn't get her jaws around the Giga once, because if she did, the fight would be over. And that's one of the reasons why people were so irritated about the fight with the Spinosaurus, because it literally starts out with the Rex biting down on the Spinosaurus's neck, which should have ended it right there if the animal was a full-grown adult and not a subadult like it's been retconned into being. But that's neither here nor there. The point is that it's the idea like they're trying to bring in this new dinosaur that's meant to be big and cool, and the audience is going to hate it. And I know that they're going to hate it because they've already basically established that that is their attitude. Because they're just going to roll their eyes and say, oh, it's just another Indominus Rex. Because they don't understand that this is actually a dinosaur that was actually real. And herein lies the biggest problem. You remember when I did that Jurassic World Where's the Hype video about a week ago? I literally said, and I quote, that I planned out a video where I was going to take down a certain critic who said that the Indominus Rex was just a big raptor. I was showcasing screenshots from the actual book that I had as a kid growing up depicting the Giganotosaurus, because I was going to make the argument that the Indominus isn't just a big raptor, it's actually a facsimile of the Giganotosaurus, because not only does it have Giga DNA in its system, its entire bodywork, if you compare them, literally is similar to a Giganotosaurus. However, now that the Giga is being introduced in the movie itself, there's no reason to make that video because a lot of my theories and assumptions have been proved wrong, and so there's no... And especially because the design of the Giga is so radically different than what the fossil record actually shows, they're trying to make it look more monstrous and more dangerous for the hype value that it ultimately doesn't feel like it's necessary. It's like they look so radically different. But the point is, this is the biggest hurdle that Jurassic World Dominion is facing, because it's the point in the movie that the audience is just going to roll their eyes and say, oh, they're just doing it again. And it just goes to show that these people don't understand what they're actually seeing, because I understand I can be a little bit apprehensive about the fact that the Giganotosaurus is in this movie at all, because it feels like it is going to be a bit more of the same. And I really hope that Rexy actually manages to kill the modern-day counterpart by the end of it, so that she can survive the movie. That's what I'm hoping for. I hope that if this is the last Jurassic Park movie, I really hope that I don't see Rexy get killed, because they're trying to say that this is just as much her story as it is going to be about the people and about Blue and her baby. So... But the reason that I'm apprehensive about it is because, well, it does kind of feel like more of the same, but I'm still excited about it because I actually understand that what I'm looking at is special. Why? Because, for the one thing, it's something that I've wanted to see from this franchise since I was a little boy. 2, it's something that they tried to do with the comic books. I believe there was one comic book where Peter Ludlow was still alive after the events of the Lost World, and they actually managed to breed a Giganotosaurus, and it basically was a pretty scary and powerful animal. 3, the DNA. Like I said, the Indominus Rex project was only done because they didn't have enough DNA to fully make the animals that they had access to. The DNA of Giganotosaurus and the Indominus was a very small percent because that's all they could get their hands on. And yet, in this movie, they have got a fully grown Giganotosaurus guarding the Biosyn compound. So, that leads to so many questions. How did Dodgson get the Giganotosaurus DNA? Is it a 100% pure Giganotosaurus, or is that creature more frog or lizard than it is dinosaur? Did he have to fill in the gaps? Is this just a facsimile of a Giganotosaurus that basically has some Giga DNA but not entirely? I understand because I'm actually following the lore of the franchise and the science. I understand that Giganotosaurus was a real dinosaur from South America that boasts a larger size and somewhat more dangerous jaws than the T-Rex, and so the debate between the two species has been going on for like 20 years now, and we're finally going to see that debate brought to the camera. So it's just, I have a greater understanding of this franchise than the average moviegoer, and that disappoints me because you would think that people who make a living criticizing movies on the internet would actually follow and research the productions of these movies, that they would actually take the time to understand what they're talking about before they make any rational decisions or any authoritative declarative statements. But they're not. They're just sheep. And I'm tired of concerning myself with the opinions of the sheep. And but the problem is the sheep will always outnumber people like me. People who actually want to think about these movies instead of just consuming them. And worst, they say that the evil corporation that made these movies is just depending on us to mindlessly consume them. No, that's what you're doing. You're not thinking about these movies because thinking about it makes you feel uncomfortable, which is why you never gave a consideration for the ethological conundrum that was Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The simple fact is that they had to save their lives. I mean, you guys get upset when you see a dog get killed in a movie, and yet you feel nothing when you're watching dinosaurs, the dinosaurs that you grew up with and loved from childhood, breathing in poisonous cyanide gas? Shame on you. Shame on all of you. How can you be so apathetic? The point of all of this is that it was never going to end easily. This is a consequence of all the actions that have led up to this moment. And now that the dinosaurs are free, they have a chance. And mankind has another choice to make. Either let them exist in peace and figure out a way to coexist and deal with them, which is literally how the movie is going to end, because there's no way this movie ends with all the dinosaurs in the franchise being killed. Maybe they'll be relocated to Isla Sorna. I don't know. But the point is, step aside, trust in nature, and life will find a way. And quit basically being dour about the doomsday clock. Yeah, that's the big criticism that I have for the trailers. Malcolm, he's basically being a mouthpiece for the agenda-driven narrative that, oh, mankind is on the verge of extinction. No, we are not. Literally speaking, we basically haven't even tapped the potential of what it would take to actually cause a global extinction on this planet. But the point is that even if we are on the verge of extinction, Malcolm literally wouldn't care about that. As the Malcolm from the original novel would basically say that even if we did go extinct, life would go on. Life would survive somewhere, and life would eventually learn to thrive and flourish again. Because that's the point of this franchise. Life finds a way. So go on, keep complaining about how you wish you could gather up all your buddies and gather up your guns and go dinosaur hunting and basically drive these beautiful creatures who have more right to exist than you do to extinction. What happens when those animals learn how to avoid you? What happens when they go into hiding and breed and populate without your knowledge? So, at the end of it all, while I'm basically apprehensive about the critical reception that this movie will face because of the Giganotosaurus, I am basically a little bit excited about it because I do want to see what happens. And the animatronic for the Giganotosaurus does look pretty impressive, and I can't wait to see it in action on screen. In summation, what can I ultimately say about this entire thing? Well, I think that there's no better place than to say what brought on this entire rant to begin with. I literally had just gotten back from the movie theaters where I saw a trailer for Avatar 2, and I'm left thinking that after 12 years, I honestly can't believe that this is happening. 12 years where the audiences have learned collectively to hate the Avatar movie. Now, ultimately speaking, while I admit that the Avatar movie is simple, I don't think I actually hate it. And, well, I think that I can understand the hate that people are giving it because they're boiling down the arguments made for the movie to really a simplistic and really just nonsensical form. But that's ultimately the problem that Avatar has, because the movie was never meant to be about the story to begin with. You see, why did Avatar become such a high-grossing movie? Because it's a movie that you had to see in theaters, and that basically goes to show that movies are not just a distraction from reality, an escape. They're not just mindless escapism. Movies are something that are to be experienced. You can't get the same experience rewatching something on a small screen in your home or basically on your phone or computer. You basically have to go to a movie theater to actually experience what these movies have. And during the pandemic, they actually did a reshowing of Avatar, and I went to see it, and the difference is night and day. Watching the movie at home, it's lackluster and a bit dull and really preachy, but actually seeing it in theaters the way that it's supposed to be, it's still the mind-blowing experience that it was 12 years ago when it came out back in 2009, was it? Well, the point is that James Cameron made this movie to be a spectacle, and I began to basically philosophize in my car ride home that on why that worked and why that didn't work. Now, a lot of people are saying that it's justified to not like the movie because the main character literally betrayed the entire human race just to clap some blue alien cheeks. I mean, I think that it's there's a bit more nuance to it than that, but still, it's not really about the characters, it's about the setting, the scenery, what you see on screen, because Avatar is basically like the first fully immersive world that has been created entirely through CGI, and that's what makes the movie so powerful and so beautiful to look at, because it doesn't look like CGI, it looks real. It looks like a world that you could actually step into, that you could experience. And that's what's so spectacular about it. And it made me realize that that's what movies are supposed to be. That's what they originally were. A movie, being a visual medium, has to be a spectacle. It has to show you something impressive. It has to wow you. It has to inspire you. It has to show you something that you didn't think was possible in your wildest dreams. And that's what the original Jurassic Park did. It showed us a look into the prehistoric past. It gave us this wonderful place of science and technology that brought dinosaurs back to life. And all we could think of in awe was, how do you do this? And Hammond, of course, replied, I'll show you. So, but the argument here is times have changed with movies. So, it's the timeless debate of movies that are either style or spectacle over substance. Because you could have a movie that looks really, really good, like a lot of what comes out of Hollywood nowadays, but if the substance of the movie is either lackluster, weak, or is just not there, the audience isn't going to care about how good the movie looks. And unfortunately, the Hollywood has proved that nowadays because we get cookie-cutter movies and sequels and franchises like from the MCU, from the Terminator movies, the Transformers movies, the Fast and the Furious movies. Do you guys realize that they are working on the 10th entry of the Fast and the Furious franchise? We have had 10 Fast and the Furious movies in the interim waiting for the Jurassic World trilogy to conclude the franchise. I defy anyone to complain about Jurassic World when those abominations exist. A movie has to basically be a spectacle, but it has to have something important to say, something that makes you feel. So the idea is that a lot of people are saying that movies should be all substance, but if there's no spectacle, then the audience isn't going to care. So what's the trade-off? How do you balance out spectacle and substance? Porque no las dos. It's like I said back in my Disney Star Wars videos, you have to find a way to make the spectacle inform the substance. Like I said in those videos, the reason that the original trilogy and even the prequel trilogy works is because they are showing us two different eras of the same galaxy and showcasing how the society in those galaxies function at these different time sets. In the prequels, everything that is made out of CGI looks sleek, shiny, and brand new because the galaxy's economy is actually stable at the time and everybody can afford to buy the newest and brightest, shiniest looking things. Ships, equipment, battle droids, everything looks nice and clean and shiny. But in the original trilogy, the galaxy has been bankrupt by an absurd war, leaving a totalitarian regime intact, so effectively, everyone's bankrupt, everyone is broke, the only people who are going to be able to afford the nice things are the government, and they're the bad guys. The resistance, the good guys, they're literally, the only things that they're going to have are literally things that they can cobble together from junk that they can get their hands on, which is why all their equipment is dirty. It looks in shambles. It's haphazardly thrown together. That's the contrast. That is the spectacle informing the substance. And Jurassic Park, it's the masterclass of movies that show how the spectacle informs the substance because the spectacle and the substance are one in the same. It literally shows you a fantastic world on the movie theater where dinosaurs are still alive. I basically said at the beginning of this rant that at its heart, the Jurassic Park story is not about the dinosaurs, because the dinosaurs are the window dressing. They're the things that get the attention of the audience, and that's true, but that's basically the meaning of the franchise. At the end of it all, they are still the thing that draws you in, and they are the things that you're going to care about. They're the things that that is most important. But you got to keep in mind, it's not necessarily about them so much as what they represent. And what they represent is a mistake. And what they do is the consequence of that mistake. But that doesn't change the fact that they are still these wonderful, beautiful animals that you just want to see, you just want to experience on the film. So, your experiences with Jurassic Park should always harken back to that scene with the Brachiosaur from the first movie, where Hammond says, "Welcome to Jurassic Park," and Grant looks across the lake as John Williams' orchestral score flares, and you see the Brachiosaurs walking in out of the lake, the Parasaurs drinking from the lake, and hearing the music basically just give you this sense of awe and wonder as the kind of world you've entered into, a world of hopeful optimism, where these wonderful and beautiful animals that went extinct millions of years ago have a second chance, and you have the ability to experience them, to see them, to touch them. So, That is the spectacle informing the substance. And the substance of Jurassic World has largely been the same, but it's taken on the darker implications of where we are, because now we're exploring the true consequences of what began that day 30 years ago when the first dinosaurs were brought back for the Jurassic Park theme park. Because now the substance is that these animals, they're highly dangerous and they're everywhere, and we are facing a huge problem because they are now falling into the hands of everyone. Every single irresponsible businessman, corporation, underground, seedy gangster, underdweller, anybody could get their hands on the dinosaurs and the technology to create them now. So what are we going to do about that? And most importantly, these animals, if we basically find a way to coexist in peace with them, how is life going to find a way? I'm excited for this movie. I'm excited to see where this movie goes, and unfortunately, I seem to be the only one that actually is, because I'm capable of giving something the benefit of the doubt. I am capable of being hopeful. And I find that so ironic because, literally speaking, there are two facets of my life that are probably the most important in the grand scheme of things. One of them is Jurassic Park. The other is Godzilla. The two literally clash in my mind about which one is more important. You would think that Godzilla would eventually win out over Jurassic Park, and yet, ever since 2016, when it comes to the fair that has been released by Toho over in Japan, the official studio that makes the Godzilla movies, I haven't been excited about them at all. I've been anticipating them with dread, because it seems like the people who are making Godzilla over at Toho, they don't understand thing one about what Godzilla is, what he needs to be, or what he should be. Effectively speaking, they just are in it just to make money. Whereas the people who are making the Jurassic World movies, and subsequently the movies that are made by Legendary, they're the movies that are being made by people who actually understand this franchise. And that's what I appreciate the most, because they're treating these movies as a lot more than just popcorn entertainment. These movies are art. And the best part about it is that people are starting to wake up and realize that. It's taken nearly 20 years, 25 years even, but people are starting to realize that they were wrong. That The Lost World, which was lambasted as a horrible Jurassic Park sequel, well, it's like I said, time will tell with all movies. And people are starting to realize that The Lost World Jurassic Park wasn't a bad movie at all. It's just that it had bad critics who didn't understand thing one about what they were talking about. It took 25 years, so it might take another 25 years before we get to that point with Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, but not with Jurassic Park 3. It's a fun movie, but that movie is popcorn entertainment. But with those movies, and I'm certain that with this one, time will tell. So, and I think that's all I have to say about that. If you guys watched this 4-part rant series, I thank you. I thank you for watching it. It's basically been on my mind ever since I went to bed last night, because the last thing that I saw before going to sleep was basically people hating on Jurassic World for literally nothing more than the trailer. And because they think that just because it's a ridiculous concept doesn't means that suddenly no one in the world would actually do it. As if the people who made Captain Marvel didn't exist. So, that's a pretty bad way to go to sleep, I should say. Some things you just gotta get off your chest. I honestly didn't think I would live in an age where these movies would have to be so defended as they are. But, like I said, we just live in a world that's just filled with bitter cynics that are so blinded by their outrage at seeing all their favorite franchises be ruined by other studios that they can no longer tell the difference between friend and foe. Jurassic World is of a much higher quality than any of those ruined franchises ever will be. Let me put this into perspective for you guys. Star Wars is dead. It has been murdered by Disney and Lucasfilm. Indiana Jones is on the chopping block. The Lord of the Rings is very quickly approaching that same direction, because when Amazon, even if Amazon refuses to believe that their own Lord of the Rings spin-off series won't work, how long until they decide to basically remake the Lord of the Rings trilogy themselves, where they can kill it like they want to? Doctor Who is dead. It's been murdered for a long time now. Several other franchises, Terminator, Predator, they've all been killed. But Jurassic Park, it stands above them all. It stands over their corpses and roars in defiance. I am still here. I am still alive, and I am going to end on my terms. You cannot corrupt me. You cannot destroy me. Life will find a way. I'll catch you guys in the next video.